Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at ARM Holdings. It is time for another update. And for this stock, we have been looking for higher prices for a while now. In fact, ever since we identified an initial 5V move to the upside. And I shared with you this exact setup where I was looking for an A, B, C correction. I have shared with you the exact number of lows I was expecting within this correction. They have followed through perfectly. And ever since, we have been on a massive bull run that has generated quite substantial returns for anyone who would have joined in the initial setup and actually even much later. We did share a couple of setups here and they did follow through nicely, and I don't believe this is over. I am actually looking for even further continuation to higher prices for ARM. I believe the structure we have in this move up within the idea of an impulse is still overwhelmingly incomplete. I would believe it possible to actually see several additional highs before having a more substantial top in, but I do consider that across the sector, the semiconductor sector, some of the stocks might be looking to approach a more substantial top where they actually might require a quite substantial correction, and ARM might actually be one of them. Now, with that said, the bullish pattern and the primary pattern that I'm tracking for this stock would imply that we could still be within the wave 3, the very internal wave 3 to the upside, where actually the most bullish move we see in the case of this chart is the primary wave 3. Well, this would imply that I would be looking for continuation within a 4th and a 5th to complete a large degree wave 3, at which point I would continue looking for such a series of 4-5 patterns until the structure actually fills out. Yeah, that would imply that once I have this next move up, I'd be looking for a 4-5 structure, and then yet another 4-5 structure, and then another 4-5 structure that would eventually complete this as an entire impulse within a 5-wave pattern. Now, is that necessary? Actually, no. It is unfortunately possible that the wave 3 would have already been in place within this structure, that I would have this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 already in place, and that we could see a more substantial top after we complete the wave 4 correction and see one additional high to complete the entire structure to higher prices. So certainly there is an element of risk here, and there will always be in trading and investing. But we actually see some confluence here, because within both of these interpretations, within both of these scenarios, I can expect at the very least another wave 5 to the upside once I have this as a wave 4 correction complete. Now, if you remember, previously we have been looking for the wave 4 to have actually potentially bottomed within this initial low. And I have been actually considering quite faithfully this possibility, but unfortunately, it hasn't managed to generate 5 waves up. Even though it did provide extensions to new all-time highs, I am rather more inclined to believe that this would have been an overshoot and that we are building more of a running flat correction, still possibly even an expanded flat correction where we would actually still need to see another low within this move down before having a more substantial bottoming. So what is the premise? Well, I would be watching out for this to be potentially an A wave down, a B wave up, and this would be my wave C to the downside, and then I would be looking for continuation to higher prices. For this scenario, the area of support only extends down to $295, where as long as I do not get a sustained break below that, I can still favor continuation to higher prices within this interpretation. The risk, well, as I was sharing earlier, the risk is that this would be a large wave 3 complete, and I would need to look for a wave 4 correction to happen on a large degree scale. Well, in such an outcome, I would have to allow a significantly deeper retracement before considering the top to be in. I would need to be looking as low as $218 for this reversal to happen against. And in reality, since both of these areas of support would have been reached now, if we manage to follow through directly higher, I would unfortunately not know which scenario is eventually going to follow through, as the minimum expectations for both of these structures would have been fulfilled. And that is about it for now from a larger time frame perspective. There is an element of unknown here, and we actually see some of that in the smaller time frame as well, as I have hinted at earlier in this video. So within this structure, I am looking at these to quite convincingly be still part of a corrective pattern. Now the question is whether we are looking at a running flat, where a bottom would actually have to be in, or if I can consider an extension of this as a wave C, in which case I would expect one additional low within this orange wave 5, likely heading towards the lower boundaries of this yellow area of support. I do not really see an issue with either of these interpretations. I am in fact open to both ideas to potentially work out, but if we happen to head to lower prices, I would definitely be watching out for the structural support levels we have here between $305 down to about $298, as we have previously formed more substantial bottoms within these regions. Now, in terms of the structure I have within this orange move down, I am tracking an impulse, and I would also be tracking an impulse in the case of the orange wave 5, where currently I would be considering the possibility of this already having 3 waves down, looking for a 4th and a 5th to have a more substantial bottom in. Well, this means I'd be watching out for the levels of resistance up to the 50% retracement, and as long as we do not get a sustained break above $333.50, the favor will have to lean in the area of continuation to even lower prices. And this doesn't need to be a major low. As I was saying, we could actually see a marginally lower low and find support at the previous lows we have formed within this area. Very realistic expectation, but definitely it will be interesting to watch out for these levels of resistance, as breaking them would be an early indication that a bottom might in fact already be in, that we actually do not need this reset of the yellow wave 4 and instead look for a 1-2 setup to be in place, where we would already be looking for the reversal to higher prices, as we only see 3 waves down at this point. So in this scenario, I would generally be watching out for the levels of support down to $315, and we actually see that we have gotten the break below it. So far, this wouldn't necessarily be considered a very sustained break. So technically, I do still see the possibility of a recovery, but I do have to favor that we will see continuation to lower prices within this orange wave 5, as opposed to seeing direct extensions higher within the white count. And since this is within such a small time frame, we might be able to get away with considering this to have been the wave 1 top here and allow the area of support to extend a little bit lower. But I'm not happy by any means in considering this to have been something like an overshoot within a wave X. We can actually not even track this as a wave B. And then to have this as a wave Y that would have technically reached the last level of support and would have actually still held above the 78.6% retracement, this is not a particularly reliable pattern. And there is actually not even anything else to look for into the smaller time frame. I strongly believe that this as an orange wave 3 would be complete. I would continue to potentially look for the reversal in the white structure, but the likelihood of this working out is actually reduced. Not only have the levels of support been briefly broken, but we have also pushed below the channel that I would have been tracking in consideration of building the wave 5 from the current lows we've had in the wave 4 down to $304. So what else is there to consider? The minimum expectations would have been fulfilled. If we are looking from a larger time frame perspective, nothing is preventing me to consider that a bottom could technically be in within this ABC structure, and nothing will be preventing this structure from getting an additional low while still maintaining the integrity of the larger pattern. The question is if the current yellow area of support will manage to be holding, and if it does, is the next fifth wave up as part of the wave 3, or is it part of this entire move to the upside, where we have to expect a quite substantial top and a quite large correction to occur after we complete this after we complete this as a Elliott Wave 5. In either case, I will certainly be expecting a correction, as within both scenarios, we actually need to have a reset before we can continue in this overall uptrend. And that is all the information that I can provide with the currently available data, but of course, as we see further and further developments, we will get additional data that will provide additional clues as to the structure that will end up unfolding here. So beyond this, if you want even more from me, even more updates on ARM and on many different stocks, you can check out the Patreon. But other than that, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.